Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskrityam
Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naistike. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavata,
by regular existence in lives of power, or by ordinary service, all that is relevant to the heart of loving service, personality God, whose grace and transcendental songs, he said,
Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 26. We're going to cover verses 1 to 8. The chapter is entitled The Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, which is a very nice continuation from the chapter that described the glories of devotional service. Kapila Devi is going to roll up his sleeves and get into more of what his main purpose is, delivering the Sankhya philosophy. So, in different tattvas, in different categories, he will be covering these principles, and this is the beginning of it. Mainly is like what Gita is describing. What are the 5 topics of the Gita? In periodical table of the Gita, take it from the world of chemistry. What are the 5 elements? Yes. 5 topics. Yeah, that the Gita is covering, Bhagavad Gita. There's 5 topics. If you read, it is their introduction. So there's God. What contains in a whole creation, the whole universe, is 5 things. Nothing but 5 things. If you're wondering, like, what is this all about, this creation? There's nothing but 5 things. Yes.
Earth, wind, fire, ether.
Okay, these are the elements that
water.
You're breaking down now one of them, one of those 5. Now you're breaking it down to the. Yes, you just broke the material nature. So there's categories, subcategories. So it goes to infinity. To how much you can deliberate and categorize the elements. How many elements? Speaking about earth, fire, and water. How many elements? So even that is subdivided. How many elements? Periodical table nowadays. They're always discovering some new ones, right?
From this new ones, they build it. They create new ones.
They create new ones, polymers and whatnot. But how many? Go ahead.
Naturally occurring elements and all.
How many natural ones in periodical table? 108. This is from our chemist devotee, the authority in the field. So there's so many categories, and then even those smaller categories, you can break it down, and you can come to what to the point of atom. Then they discuss the atom. So this is all Sankhya. Sankhya means like dividing the subject matter in so many categories, subcategories, for the purpose of understanding. Right? We want to understand. I don't know as a kid if you ever done it, but my mother tells me I've done it with most of my toys. Yeah, I get a toy. They get me a toy, so I want to put it apart to see how does it work. Right? Have you done it as a kid? You get it. So you want to dismantle it because we're curious, right? We're curious. We want to know how does this thing work? How does it go? So we put it apart, and then do we have understanding? We don't, right? Does the kid have understanding? How does it work? We don't. It's very childish. Yeah, without the help of a parent, it's very childish to try to understand. And anyway, even if you understand, now so what? Is that a purpose? It kind of becomes a perpetual thing. And you don't really get the satisfaction. The real satisfaction is there's another example is given. When there's a tree, you can doubt that there's roots of the tree and start digging. And then eventually you'll find the roots. And then what? Is that a purpose? What is the purpose in our relation to the tree? Just to find out that there's roots or something more? Huh? Yeah, to accept what it offers, yes. The nature offers so many things. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Some morality, some economic development that provides for our sense enjoyment. Then when we get tired, take me. Please accept me. Moksha, we want liberation, right? But in order to get the fruits of the tree, what is required? One has to water it, nurture the tree. So this is the very purpose of our existence. It's a relationship. We're not just like, give me, give me, give me. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? There's a famous song by, was it Janis Joplin? This is not a, huh? I don't think they know Janis Joplin. Anyway, she was around. I guess we can say early ISKCON contemporary. Yes, yes. So we are not here just to shop. We also to relate and to serve, establish ourselves in a relationship. Because shopping will never satisfy. Just shopping, it's never gonna cut it, because what's gonna fulfill the heart is when we offer back. We want to come to the situation of so much appreciation in our heart, so much gratitude that we want to offer back. So gratitude is the generating force of devotional service. Without gratitude, we won't move forward. That is the desire. That is what makes the world go around, one way or the other. When our selfish interests are transformed into something greater that we want to give, just like, again, the child is grown up. At one point, they should feel gratitude for the parents and everything they've provided and given. So they want to give back, right? That love, that care, that's natural, of course. This world is infested with so many unnatural things. but in general, that is expected to be normal, right? You receive, so you offer some gratitude. Okay, so Kapiladev is speaking to his mother about these categories, and particularly material in nature, as Brandon broke it down to even further categories. And what are the other few that Bhagavad Gita covers? Time, okay, there's element of time. Everything happens in time. And we spoke about that earlier. Then the doer, there are two doers. And both are there. Jiva, Jivatma, and Paramatma. So that's two more. And we need fifth one. So far, all these four are eternal. Bhagavad Gita explains that these four are eternal, but one is temporary, and we're missing that one.
Knowledge?
Nope. It's karma. Karma. So we have time, material nature, creation, two doers, Jivatma and Paramatma, soul and super soul, and karma. Karma is temporary. That's a good news, guys. That's a good news. Karma is not eternal. There's a way out. See these exit signs? Follow the exit signs. There's a way out. We are not eternally condemned, as some of our religious brothers would tend to believe. You are eternally condemned. No. Krishna's heart is not that cruel. Krishna's heart is kind and filled with unconditional love. All right. So that's just a little intro. We don't have to recap the whole pastime. You know what happened. Right? Kapila, parents got together. They were great mystics and yogis of Satya Yuga. Now Kapila is here as Supreme Personality of Godhead, speaking to his mother, who is portraying herself as confused, like she doesn't know. Right? She is Devahuti. She knows. She's not an ordinary lady. She knows. And that's why Kapila smiled. I think Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that he, at one point, after Devahuti finished her, remember those series of questions? Kapila smiled, like as if thinking, well, why is she asking these questions? Aren't you my mother? Aren't you my mother? And I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is it that you would be in Maya as my mother? But she wasn't. She was just portraying herself, just like Arjuna was put in that situation, right? In a situation of doubt. Have you ever doubted things in life? Okay, what is doubt? Let's just pause here. This is important, actually. This is one of the things I wanted to. What is doubt for you? What is doubt?
Lack of faith.
Lack of faith. Doubt is also the sign of intelligence.
Lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding. And how do we overcome doubt?
Trial and error.
You want to try the reverse engineering? Lack of understanding. Therefore, I inquire to get more understanding, right? That's how you remove the doubt. What did you say?
Same basics. Trial and error.
Try and error, yeah.
Patience.
Patience.
Write down the times that you are inspired so you can go back and look at them as the instruction from Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, you can file in the doubt, right? Maybe it's not clear now. I'm really trying, but there's no answer. You'll be very often you'll be that, but you can file it in. File in. Don't dismiss the whole process. You can file it in, and in due course, I guarantee you, the answers will find you. There will be these light bulbs, especially if you are doing devotional service. You might be having doubts, but then in the kitchen you'll be, washing those dishes and scrubbing and right, or doing the laundry, and poof, from within, comes all these answers. Bhaktisiddhanta was troubled by some scientists. He said, but how is this? How is this? Bhaktisiddhanta, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he was a genius. I mean, walking encyclopedia, photographic memory. He had a Shrutidar. Anything he has read, he could recite. It will remain in his mind. Can you imagine? Anything that is read, he could retain. It will be retained in his mind. So he was asking Bhaktisiddhanta, how is this? Explain to me this, and that. He said, go ask the pujari. Right? Go ask the pujari. And then he was so annoying with these questions, and he wouldn't go pujari. And then Bhaktisiddhanta said, I told you, just go ask the pujari. So when he went to the pujari department, he went to ask pujari. Pujari said, okay, polish this tray, polish this paraphernalia. So as he was polishing, he surrendered. He was, I guess, serious enough to want those answers, that he surrendered. And he polished. And he polished. And then from within, all these answers came. Just like that. Because Krishna is there in our heart. And he will enlighten. Bodayantas parasparam. Tishyanti cha ramanti cha. We enlighten each other when we come together and discuss. And Krishna enlightens from within as we perform devotional service. Srila Prabhupada said that all of you, my disciples, you are very, very sincere. But not many are serious. What does that mean? So we think, I tried. It's not working. This process is not working. No, it's working. Are we applying ourselves? That is the question. Because we see there's ample of good examples around us that it is working. But because we are lacking, we dismiss the process. We discredit the process. You know the story of a fox and a grapes? You know the story? Okay, Gopal is going to tell you the story.
There was this fox, and he saw like a grapevine. He wanted to taste the grapes, so he was like jumping and jumping, and he couldn't jump high enough to get any of the grapes. So he finally gave up and said, "Oh, they're sour." I thought of a couple of things that, as far as the elements or whatever, earth, water, fire, air, wind. It seems really primitive, but it's just a way of analyzing. Like most of the periodic table is probably earth, to be categorized as earth, maybe gas or air or something. And in Sankhya, I think is generally described. There's in the Bhagavad Gita purport, it's described there's 24 elements. Sometimes the soul is the 25th. So it's just different ways of looking at things. And then in the 11th canto, they give like several different examples. One's like 15 or something like that. So, it's like that. So it's just it's not primitive. It's just and anything can be fit into those 5 gross categories one way or another. And also something that I've been thinking about during this section about the processes of yoga and Satya Yuga and sacrifice and Dwarpa Yuga, Treta Yuga, and deity worship and Dwarpa Yuga and the holy name Kali Yuga. The Hare Krishna mantra was present in all these ages. It's explained in Elevation of Krishna Consciousness, a small book. I think it's also in the Namamrita somewhere. The Hare Krishna mantra was in all these ages. It was always the best and easiest method. But in this age, it's really the only method that's going to work. for practical purposes.
She had announced Sankirtan Ki.
Jai.
So yeah, we shouldn't be a fox. Just because we cannot taste the nectar of the holy name, we shouldn't be giving up and giving a bad name. Oh, anyways, those grapes are sour. And all the other animals, they were laughing. What a sour loser. This fox is walking away. He couldn't reach it, but he wasn't humble enough to say, I'm just too short. I can't reach it. But as he walked away, he was putting a blame on a grape. But everybody knew. They were just laughing. This fox is a sour loser. It's not the sour grapes. All right, let's dive into. We have 8 verses. They're beautiful verses talking about these categories, mainly supreme, jiva, and material nature, and how they interact. I'll start and then we'll take turns. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila, continue. My dear mother, now I shall describe and into the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature.
Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I shall explain that knowledge unto you, by which the knots of attachment to the material world are cut.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul. He has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material modes of nature, beyond the existence of this material world. He is perceivable everywhere because he is self-effulgent, and by his self-effulgent luster, entire creation is maintained.
As his pastime, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy, which is invested with 3 material modes of nature and which is related with Vishnu.
So what categories are described in text 4? Supreme, right? And a little bit of material nature. Okay.
Divided into varieties by her threefold modes. Material nature creates the form of the living entities, and the living entities, seeing this, are illusioned by the knowledge-covering feature of the illusory.
So what categories are described in verse 5? And what relation? Jivatma and material nature and how they interact, how they're related. Okay.
Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities, and thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself.
So that's about living entities struggling to understand. Yeah. Prakritik Kriyama.
327, the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 27. Prakriti Kriyamana Karma Sarvashaha Ahankara Vimuratma Kartaham Iti Manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature.
Yeah, this is a very nice cross-reference from the Gita. And we're bewildered by the influence of false ego. And then we think we're the doer. Most people. But all of this is actually carried out by the modes. So as you understand, this is very liberating. You know what this means? This is very powerful. This is very powerful. If you understand this, you can actually stay aloof. And you can be free. But I met the person in book distribution. So, no, I can do whatever I want. I said, yeah, if you're ready to pay the price. Most people misunderstand freedom. We can do whatever we want, but actually that's not how it works. But they say, I'm free, I watch TV. They are completely conditioned, programmed to be angry, programmed to be envious, programmed to be lusty. We have so many samskaras within our mind. So this programming is very precise. And we are bound like an animal on a very short leash. When we realize that, we're going to be screaming out, Krishna, help me. But the problem is we don't realize our predicament. We don't realize how short of a leash we are. And, yeah. So life goes on. Bhutva praliyate. Again and again, we take birth, again and again. Okay, continue from the Bhagavatam.
Consciousness is cause of one's conditional life, in which conditions are enforced upon a living entity by the material energy. Although the spirit does not do anything in his transcendence to such activities, he is thus affected by conditional life.
Conditional life. There's two conditions the living entity can be in: facing Krishna, or looking at Krishna, or looking away from him. Looking at Krishna and moving in that direction will increase our freedom. Of course, there are restrictions. We follow 4 regular principles of freedom. That is the full name. They're called 4 regular principles of freedom. So by following those, simple 4, and they are so powerful. They are so powerful, actually. If you follow those, it's equivalent to declaring the war against delusion, right? If you start following those 4, you're going to declare the war. What happens when you declare the war? You think the enemy is going to be like, whoa, look at him. Let me surrender. Let me bow down. He's so powerful. No, the enemy is going to be, okay, declaring war, roll up the sleeve, and Maya is going to start hitting. Maya is going to start hitting hard. And she knows where we're weak. So therefore, we have to guard ourselves. What is the best guard? We surround ourselves with devotees. Good association. That's how we guard. Otherwise, it's him. Daivi Hesha Gunamai. Duratyaya. You cannot overcome. Even if you think about it, don't think about it, because you're already nose down. You cannot overcome. But if you learn, for those who learn how to surrender to me, that's another cross-reference, easily, they can easily overcome it. Just like as one crosses the water that is contained in a hoof print of a calf. Is that a difficult thing? If you have a water contained in a hoof print of a calf or a cat, that's some small animal.
A cat?
A cat or dog, some small animal, there's a hoof print, their hoof print.
Chat.
This is the yesterday's residue. How difficult it is to cross that? Are you threatened by the water that is contained in a chat's hoof print? There's a cat chat. Cat named Chat. But try crossing the ocean. Are you threatened by? I'm threatened by ocean. It's a vast body of water. No matter how good swimmer you are, and we all know Nitai is a very good swimmer. He's working on it. No matter how good swimmer, there's no way. The ocean is unsurmountable. You need to board a ship. Srila Prabhupada is the captain. Welcome on board. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna movement ki jai. Go Premanande. Once you're on a ship, it's like smooth sail. Okay, text 8.
The cause of conditioned soul, material body and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men, the feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself.
So that's our verse for today. And we're going to read the purport. Any volunteers for purport? Okay, don't fight.
In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that when the Lord descends to this material world, he comes as a person by his own energy, Atma Maya. He is not forced by any superior energy. He comes by his own will, and this can be called his pastime, or Leela. But here it is clearly stated that the conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses under the three modes of material nature. That body is not received according to his own choice. In other words, a conditioned soul has no free choice. He has to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. But when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself. If he so desires, the spirit soul can change this conditional life of dualities by choosing to serve Krishna. The living entity is the cause of his own suffering, but he can also be the cause of his eternal happiness. When he wants to engage in Krishna consciousness, a suitable body is offered to him by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord, and when he wants to satisfy his senses, a material body is offered. Thus, it is his free choice to accept a spiritual body or a material body. But once the body is accepted, he has to enjoy or suffer the consequences. The Mayavadi philosopher's presentation is that only the living entity enjoys his pastimes by accepting the body of a hog. This theory is not acceptable. However, because the word pastimes implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment, therefore, this interpretation is most misleading. When there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. The Lord's pastimes and the conditioned living entity's acceptance of karmic reaction are not on the same level.
Om Angyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shala Chakshura Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in darkness, ignorance, and my spiritual masters have kindly opened my eyes. They were shut with the torchlight of knowledge. Okay, any points of discussion, questions or comments? Yes?
The four principles of freedom, or the four regulations of freedom. Is there any situation under which a devotee would break them? Like, let's say someone's like, "I'll give you $100,000 to take a sip of this beer." Because I was playing on that hypothetical, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I'll give it to the temple or something. So is there a certain like practicality where you can break it?
Yeah, there's practicality. How much? 100,000? How much?
We can say, we'll do one guy.
I would line up for less than that. Our Paul would go for.
Hey, don't say it.
He would probably even be more merciful, because by engaging others, we're willing to take karma, just so they can benefit. But if you're not strong, don't try it. One has to be very strong. So otherwise, especially if you are recovering, you're just like recovered from your years of addiction to alcohol. I wouldn't recommend doing that. So depending how strong you are, you can. Personally, I dislike beer. Like I took a sip of it. It was so bitter. I never liked it. Never drank it. So I'll probably do it. But somebody who's recovering alcoholic, I wouldn't recommend it. You have to know yourself. That's part of your self-realization.
The only time I know of it being sanctioned in Prabhupada's books is in case of emergency, it's okay to eat meat. If you're going to starve to death, it's okay to eat meat. And we had 2 sets of canine teeth for emergencies. The only part of our body is canine. The rest of the body is completely vegetarian. But the restriction is that rum should never be taken out. Besides that, it's a matter of life and death. You can eat meat. I think it used to be in science and self-realization. It's not there in. I'm just not sure. Yeah, so that's the only time I know of it being sanctioned by brother. I know. Yeah, when there's when you have a grocery store right across the street, like a 3-minute walk, all the fruits, grains, vegetables, milk, products, sugar you need, there's no excuse to eat. But if you're in a plane crash or something, or you're stuck in the forest, maybe Vishwamrita, one of the 7 great sages, was obliged to eat a dog at one point. So that's the only examples I know of the scripture saying sanction.
Really quick, all the way back to the beginning where you talk about disassembling the toys, and like that we can do that with our spiritual literature or even like our practice or whatever. I was just having a image of when I used to do that too. I had like so many action figures, and there would be some I would disassemble. But so yes, I didn't understand how it operated by doing that. But what did happen is like it, I, I was able to see new things that I'd never seen before because all the parts that like make up the interiors of them, like they're really foreign. Like you'll never see them any other where you can't purchase them, So it was like it expanded my mind, even though it didn't teach me how the thing operated.
Yes, we can marvel. We can marvel creation in so many ways. But at the end, like scientists, they have access to microscopes and telescopes, so they're able to marvel. Oh my God! So it's another boundary that's open. You go like, wow, this is amazing. The world and the microcosmos, right? It's like so. And apparently, it's just space. Within the atom is mostly space. Everything is hollow, but yet it's achintya. Bhagavad actually concludes that everything about material nature, everything about Krishna is achintya. It's inconceivable. Ultimately, you cannot understand. And if you dig deep enough in any department of knowledge, be it chemistry, physics, any department, you'll find the same conclusion. That it's inconceivable and that the creator is even more marvelous, more amazing. And the need to surrender to one who has created everything is that much more even greater, because you always hit that wall. And our process is descending process. How do you find out who's your father? How do you find out who's your father? Only she knows. Only mother knows. You can go around, how many men are in the world? You can go around and ask each man and waste a lot of time. And that will be iffy. You might cheat it. Someone say, yeah, I'm your father. But you can never be sure unless you take the word and take shelter of the only authority on that question is your mother. So Vedas are like that. You want to know who Supreme is? One has to. There's no choice. one has to approach and accept the word of the Veda. And gradually, one will receive realizations how that is so. We don't ask why is it so, but how is it so? Then it will be revealed to you in due course. Okay, anything else? Yes, Prabhu. Nitai.
I'm going to say the next question. Made me think that it's the question of we might do something like that. It's exactly like the situation that he asked us. If someone offers you money and you think I could just give it to the temple, but if it's at your own expense of spiritual life's expense, then the question is, would Krishna be happy if you come closer to him, or if the temple gets $100,000? It might seem like we are doing a great service by giving $100,000 at our own expense. But Krishna is a supreme controller. If temple needs $100,000, he doesn't have to sacrifice his devotee to give $100,000.
How about that for staunch devotion? Nitai's heart is uncompromised. There is no price tag you can put on my purity. Just like Haridas Thakur. No compromise. So there's that line of thought, and then there's the other line of thought of, oh, it is not about me, it's about how can I engage these people. So both are wonderful, but one has to know him or herself and their weaknesses. Because if we take more than we can handle, then we are toast along with them. Next thing you know, Saturday night, we are with them in the bar celebrating another victory of Gators. Go Gators. Right? So one has to be careful with association. Prabhupada said, be able to catch a fish and stay dry. In this world, we have to act in that way. Be able to catch a fish, but you don't want to get wet. So in this world, but when understanding that we are not of it. Right? We are not humans with spiritual experiences. We are jivatmas, spirit souls with temporary human experiences. Switch that around. Okay. If there's anything else, bring it over to breakfast. It's time to wrap up. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam jai. Gaur Premanandi.